tell you a quick story. So I have always wanted to be a psychologist. I think it started at about age 8 or 9, and my friends would ask me for advice. Now, mind you, it was probably about a boy they liked that liked one of our friends and what they should do about it. But that trend continued into middle school. And at that point, I said to myself, since I'm so good at giving advice, I want to be a psychologist when I grow up. And here I am, a psychologist. Now, obviously, that's a very simplistic example, and giving advice is not really what I do at all. But my point is, what if we could have the childlike confidence to do and be exactly who we were meant to be? Well, it all starts with self-inclusion, which is all about diversity and our idiosyncrasies and embracing all the things about ourselves that sometimes we rather hide. But it's vital because when we can embrace what makes us different and what makes us stand out, we start to combat a sense of isolation, we foster a sense of independence, and we develop empathy for ourselves, which helps with our overall mental health. But inclusion has a lot of benefits when it comes to mental health. For instance, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, 87% of Americans believe that having a mental health diagnosis is nothing to be ashamed of, which means that in some of the areas we can struggle with the most that make us feel the most different, like depression and anxiety and trauma, we can start to demystify those things and deal with them out loud. And then 86% of people believe that having a mental health diagnosis is nothing to be ashamed of, which again means in the areas that we can struggle with the most in life, there is hope. So repeat after me, embrace it. Embrace it. So why is storytelling important? Is it possible that you could be the hero in your own story based first on how you tell the story to yourself? Let me ask you a question. How would someone else tell your story versus how you would actually want it to be conveyed? Let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of Daisy Bates? Well, she was the only woman allowed to speak at the March on Washington at a time when that was unheard of, particularly for a Black woman, and she delivered a speech called A Tribute to Women, and she was described as pushy and aggressive. However, her biographer noted that, first of all, those two traits were often praised for men in leadership roles, and secondly, they actually helped her to be able to do a few things. So she launched the Arkansas Press. She was the president of the Arkansas chapter of the NAACP, and she was a leader and mentor for the Little Rock Nine. So Daisy Bates, same woman, same life story, but two different descriptions based on who told her story. One was pushy and aggressive. The other was someone who made a significant contribution to her community. So what does your story say about you? For a long time, my story really focused on something I did not like about myself, which was my sensitivity. I grew up being told that I needed to pick my feelings up off the ground, and so I thought that being sensitive and emotional were not good things at all. Until 2020. You remember that time when we were all inside? And one of my friends suggested that I listen to a book by Glennon Doyle called Untamed. So she was describing one of her daughters who was also sensitive, but she described it as her superpower. I must have rewound that at least 3 times because I needed to hear that trait described that exact way. And I started to consider that maybe this thing that I didn't like about myself actually helped me to be compassionate and to connect with my clients and to be really good at what I did. Maybe it was my superpower. So, again, repeat after me, embrace it. So how do we start to redefine our inner storyteller? Well, it all starts with self. Remember that, self. The S stands for self-talk. What do you say to yourself about yourself? Do you use positive words or negative words? Would you use those same qualities for the people that you love the most? Really start paying attention to that inner commentary because it's really important. And then the E stands for embrace your uniqueness. So what is it about you that makes you uniquely you? Is it your creativity? Maybe it's the way you connect with people. Maybe it's the way you logically think through situations. But whatever that is, once you can embrace and accept what makes you special, you soar. And then the L stands for learn from your mistakes. Did you know that our mistakes are our biggest life lessons? And failure is a part of life. So what if we allowed our mistakes to help us become the best versions of ourselves? Which takes us to the last letter, which is the F, for forgiveness. A lot of times we focus on forgiveness for other people, but what about forgiveness for ourselves? For the missteps that we take and just allowing ourselves to be human. Once we can let some of those things go and know that we're going to make mistakes and we keep going, it only makes us better. So what can get in the way of all of this is comparison. So I got into the comparison trap several years ago when I started my business. I was in a consultation group, and as time went on, their businesses started to grow in ways that mine didn't. And I started to feel inferior, and I wondered what I had to offer to this group. Until I started to pay attention to my surroundings, to the fact that clients referred their loved ones to us, and people said they felt a sense of peace when they came into the office, and that my employees would ask me for support and advice. And I started to realize that there was something unique that I had for the people around me that was special to me. Not good or bad, better or worse, but special to me. And that is something that we all have. And so, how do we use our inner storyteller to help us become our best selves? Well, we pay attention to what we say to ourselves about ourselves. We lean into what makes us special, and we don't try to be like anyone else. Remember, on your best day, you can be the best version of yourself or a pale comparison of someone else. Thank you.